Hey guys, Davison here. So I wanted to talk about several trends that are going on right now on social media that have to do with sexual harassment and sexual assault, mostly of women. I think men are also including themselves in this because men can also be victims of sexual assault and harassment, but this whole trend mainly arose from the whole Harvey Weinstein scandal. So I was trying to make a video about this earlier today on my main channel with my professional camera, but I never felt like I said the right things, and I never felt like I thoroughly communicated what I wanted to say and the issues I have with these trends. So if you guys are commenting right now, I will get to your comments and questions at the end of this broadcast. But for now, I just wanted to discuss my thoughts on the hashtags IHave, metoo, and IWill. So just to start this off, to explain this, because some people aren't following this. I mean, if you're on social media, probably you've seen this by now, but maybe I'll just explain just in case you've been absent the last couple of days and you haven't. So Alyssa Milano several days ago posted on Twitter, "If all the women who have been sexually harassed or assaulted wrote Me Too as a status, we might give people a sense of the magnitude of the problem." And then she put hashtag Me Too. And what this is all about is trying to draw attention to the fact that women in our society, unfortunately, are almost universally harassed at one point or sexually assaulted in some way or another at some point. And people instantly jumped on the bandwagon, and now everyone is sort of confessing the times that they were essentially victims of this kind of behavior. Now, I think it's super positive that this discussion is occurring. I think it needed to occur. I am somewhat afraid of what the eventual outcome of all of this might be, in that I feel like lately we are getting more and more paranoid as a culture and more distrusting of one another. In so much as we're complaining, I feel like society is becoming more divided as opposed to coming together this year. I don't know if you guys agree with me. Please let me know if you do in the comment section down below. But I do sometimes worry that all of this complaining or awareness raising, instead of solving the problem, what's going to happen instead is that people are going to be criticized more and more frequently, and more witch hunts will occur. I'm not saying that the men that have been identified didn't deserve it. Like, Harvey Weinstein clearly is a piece of shit who mistreated dozens and dozens of women. Same thing goes for Bill Cosby. But I feel like also to lump all sexual mistreatment under the same hashtag without any explanation is a little careless and inaccurate. I don't think anyone is claiming that sexual harassment and rape are equivalent, but I feel like this hashtag accidentally puts them in the same basket. I feel like in a way it's an insult to rape survivors to create a hashtag that you can use whether or not you've just been catcalled in the street or you've been brutally raped and assaulted in your home by someone you thought you could trust. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like these hashtags to a certain degree are serving like emotional porn for other people. And there's some schadenfreude going on that makes me very uncomfortable. So instead of people reading these confessions of victimhood and, you know, reacting in solidarity or support, people are just reading them out of curiosity to know, you know, what happened to this person and did this person ever get raped. And I don't want to be that kind of entertainment, and I don't think anybody should be that kind of entertainment for everyone in their networks on social media. I feel like there's a time and a place to discuss when you've been a victim, and I think sometimes it can be a very strong political statement to speak about, you know, your truth and your horrible experiences. But I feel like you know, a hashtag that everyone's going to forget about in a week is maybe not the best way to go about it. But I mean, I'm sort of conflicted in saying that because, like I said, I do see the power of this movement. You know, I've seen how many people are jumping on it. So it obviously is, you know, resonating with people. But I myself, I don't feel like participating fully. You know what I mean? I mean, it's so complicated to talk about the way that we can be mistreated as a human being. I think mistreatment exists on this spectrum, right? So in the whole sexual mistreatment realm, it's from, you know, an unwanted catcall on the street where the guy doesn't touch you and just like, hey lady, nice legs, to a guy being overly persistent and aggressive towards you at a bar and you having to be like, no buddy, back off, to actually being touched by a guy in some sort of unwanted way, like being groped, to, of course, it gets worse and worse to, you know, the point where you're murdered and tortured and raped in, you know, an alleyway and nobody saves you. So I don't think that we are ever going to stop evil people from existing. I do think that we maybe need to educate children more about harassment. Maybe that's what this is all revealing, right? Just like we had sex education in school, maybe we now need harassment training in school. Kids are now being taught about consent. When I was younger, it was not the yes means yes school of thought. It was the no means no. Like if you don't want a guy to keep going, you go no, not ask permission before you even start. So I think it is progress that we sort of move towards the consent model. So now we need to move towards as well the anti-harassment model and go like, hey kids, just because you like someone doesn't mean you can say things to them that may be inappropriate. Don't let your desire dictate your behavior, and make sure you show a little self-control. Another thing that's disturbing too to me is that a lot of people are saying, well, why is Alyssa Milano writing Me Too and she used to dress sexy for Charmed, and look at all the pictures of her in H&M? No, that's not right. FHM? In FHM and Maxim magazine, and now she's old and an ugly feminist. There's an actual video you can go watch, by the way, if you look it up, where the guy essentially says that. So, of course, now she's complaining now that she's not benefiting from being attractive and creating thirst traps for everyone. Well, to that I say, okay, let's unpack this whole sexual harassment thing before we even touch the whole rape thing. If a woman dresses sexy, what I think harassment is, it's all about context and it's all about intensity, right? So, here, I'd written this down before. If you are scantily clad intentionally in a photo or say a video, how much you expose of yourself, it almost should be to a certain degree expected that you are going to draw comments. Now, comments are not the same as outright harassment. Harassment always involves some degree of entitlement or demands or violence. So, whereas if I'm wearing a sexy top and some guys online says, hey, she's got great cleavage, I can't then say I was sexually harassed, because and again, this is where context comes into play. If the context was that this was definitively a sexy photo, that is a reaction that one, I believe, should expect. However, if that same guy says, hey, you've got great cleavage, show me your tits, that's where it crosses over into outright harassment, because he's made an aggressive demand that was not appropriate, also given the relationship. So there's like multiple factors you have to consider, right? The relationship dynamic, the context, and the amount of exposure that a woman is creating for herself, or amount a woman is exposing herself. Sorry, I put that rather strangely. And it's so complicated to like think about that, like the context in which, a compliment turns into harassment. But I think it's something that we need to start considering rather seriously, because people, I think, don't know how to behave, right? I think, someone said, oh, well, if you wouldn't say it to the person's face or say it in front of a group of people, don't say it at all. And I mean, I agree with that. That's a good barometer. But equally, you know, life exists in the gray zones, right? And obviously, people are intentionally sexy sometimes, and that doesn't mean that they deserve to be assaulted. That doesn't mean that they deserve to be raped. However, that sort of changes what their interpretation of the comments they receive should be, I think, at least. So yeah, it's also unfair to say that, you know, like, if a woman is dressed sexy, she can't say that she was a victim, because that's not true either. That's the whole she asked for it, and no one ever asks for it. And no aggressivity and demands of a stranger or a person you know is ever acceptable. Passing comments might be acceptable. And also consent is a part of this that we must consider as well. If a woman consents to display herself in a sexy manner and makes it known that the environment is open to receiving compliments or comments that are sexual, then it's fine. It's not harassment. But if that woman is just, say, neutrally sitting in a cafe with a very, you know, seductive shirt, you don't have the right. She's not giving you the consent to walk up to her and say, you know, hey, nice titties. So yeah, now moving down the list of the hashtags, there's not just Me Too, but there's IHave and IWill. So what IWill is supposedly a hashtag for men to use to say that they will assist women in stopping sexual harassment and, of course, sexual assault, and that they will make more of an effort to stand up and say something denouncing this kind of behavior and, you know, actively stopping it if they see it occurring in real life. I have no problem with IWill. I think it's just like a hashtag in solidarity. However, there's also the hashtag that kind of emerged today, or really tonight, on Twitter, which is IHave. And now IHave is where men are now beginning to confess that they have been the perpetrators of sexual harassment and assault. And again, I mean, just because you confess you've done something, that doesn't absolve you of the guilt or the responsibility of having done it. You know what I'm saying? I'm worried that this is sort of turning into like Catholic confessional, where you go in, you confess your sins, and that somehow makes it all better. Because people, they've done studies on this, people will feel better emotionally the moment they confess something, even if they've made no actual amends. So I feel like if someone has misbehaved towards women or other people in the past, they should just cease the behavior. They shouldn't necessarily be talking about it on social media. I don't know. Like, I'm struggling with this, just like I'm struggling with the Me Too being a kind of like emotional porn that people are living, you know, appreciating vicariously in a very, you know, sinister way. I also think too, and this is going to be my final point, is that we all need to really watch what we say on social media. So maybe it's not a great idea to be talking about specifics about what you've gone through or what you've done, especially confessions of guilt, you know, on Facebook or on Twitter. This stuff can live forever. People can screen cap anything. People can take things and do take things out of context. It doesn't fix also any present problems at all, other than to make the discussion happen that there needs to be more training and education of youth and people in general about what constitutes harassment, you know, and certainly I think it's just terribly obvious why, you know, sexual assault is unacceptable. So I'm gonna turn to you guys. I hope that I made sense. Like, that's why I struggled with talking about this earlier when I was alone to my vlogging camera, because I just feel like it's so complicated. It is so multi-layered. But I mean, it also, with regards to myself, I mean, it goes without saying, I think everyone at some point or another is harassed or has someone come on to them in an inappropriate way. I just think that part of that could be, you know, the age of the person hitting on you. They're young, they're ignorant, they're overly enthusiastic, they're intoxicated. part of it definitely is sometimes the result of the way our society genders things, can be sexist, etc. And I also think sometimes people are just born evil. So like it's almost inevitable that there's going to be conflict. It's just how we try to manage that as a society to minimize it as best we can. And like, I'm lucky in that I have never been sexually assaulted. I've never had my horror, or like my worst fear of, you know, being violated and not being able to have anybody stop it. You know, that's never happened to me. So like I said at the beginning of this broadcast, I would feel like very uneasy using the hashtag #MeToo if other people are talking about, you know, being survivors of violent sexual assault. Yeah, I mean, the time that, you know, say there was a guy who grabbed my butt when I was going up the metro on leaving the subway, and he like literally full on put his hand on my ass. I turned around and I was like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, took his hand off and he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." And I was so shocked because like it was clear that he was just like lying and he wasn't sorry, and he was just betting on my non-reaction, because that's how most people react in shock, is they just don't know what to do, right? And I, in the moment, didn't get angry. I was sort of confused, but I was happy that nothing worse had occurred and he took off. But I mean, what use is it of me going, "Ha, hashtag me too. I've been groped by a stranger"? I mean, I don't feel any permanent trauma because of that. I think the guy's a piece of shit. I think he probably has a sexual compulsivity problem, but I don't think me jumping on the hashtag would have changed that, nor would that change that possibility for other people. Because like I said before, there's always evil people. So anyhow, I'm gonna throw it to you. I've babbled about this enough, and I do also, after I get to you guys, want to talk about too, some men are now afraid that their actions are going to be misinterpreted as harassment, and that now that people are more hypersensitive about any unwanted sexual advances, that we're going to become, you know, more and more closed off and conflict ridden. I don't know. I'll get to that in a second, but here we go, because I keep saying I'll get to that. I'm totally babbling, guys. I'm so sorry. So, hi Danny, hi Steven, hello Eileen, hi Kim, I hope you're doing better. I know you were in the hospital. I hope your treatments are going well. Okay, so hello Raspergo, hello Davison. If I compliment you and liked it, then it is not harassment. No, it's not harassment. It's back to what I was trying to articulate in a very poor way before, which is that harassment is all about consent, context, and intensity. So if I have intentionally made media where I am sexy, then I've already consented to receiving certain types of comments. But that doesn't mean that it's anything beyond comments, right? Because the context is the only interaction that you can, you know, have with me is a comment. It's not touching me. It's not emailing me. It's isolated for that media. And if there's no aggressive intent of whatever comment someone leaves, then they are not harassing me. Does that make sense? And I should make a video about those three considerations to determine whether or not something constitutes harassment, because I feel like it's very hard to articulate, right? So Gaming Central says, don't say anything to a woman on the street that you wouldn't want a man saying to you in prison. Wow. Yep. Funny, but not funny. Stephen Simon says, it's a subject that needs to be talked about. Gamer's Ego says, cool candles. And Danny says, hello, Davison. Danny says, being anything but sexy isn't really a choice for you. Well, yeah, I don't know if that's it's the right context, Danny. Back to what we were saying. I don't think now is the time. I'm certainly not attempting to be sexy right now. I'm talking about sexual harassment. But yeah, back to the whole like flirting thing, and men are afraid of being falsely accused of being harassers now that we're hypersensitive to harassment. I feel like I really do feel like I'm not being as articulate as usual. It is late though. I think there's going to be some women that overreact, just like there's going to be some men that overreact, right? And but the majority of people I think are going to be reasonable, especially once this all simmers down. I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to write that down because I really feel like I want to turn that into a video about consent, context, and intensity determines harassment. I mean, some people would argue that like only the person who's the recipient of the comment can determine whether or not it constitutes harassment. I know that seems scary, right? Because then it's like, wow, then it's, you know, anything I say can be used against me. But perhaps that's true. So watch what you say and who you say it to. You have to really perhaps become intimate with someone gradually. And by intimate, I mean like gain their friendship and a close relationship before you can say anything that's even moderately suggestive to them. That's definitely the safest route. Will it always play out like that in real life? No, of course not. Of course not, because human beings are sexual animals. Human beings flirt. Human beings take risks. So I don't think that it's ever going to be that cut and dry or that safe that we all just slowly feel for like the right moment to say the right thing. But that, again, that sort of approach isn't harassing, right? And flirting isn't harassment unless you keep going once the person says stop or the context is inappropriate. Don't hit on someone at a funeral, for instance. This is like really messy. This is very messy to talk about, guys. Okay, so does anybody have any comments? Because I see that you've stopped talking. Oh, this is not a harassment donation. You're cute. $2. Thank you. I feel like I should be donating that donation to an anti-sexual assault charity. I think this is all a hoax. How do you think this is all a hoax, Danny? The IHave hashtag really does traumatize me. I don't know. I feel like it's not the most evil guys that are going to be using the IHave hashtag. It's going to be the people who feel guilty and maybe are exaggerating their own feelings of guilt. They're going to use it. You know what I'm saying? That's not healthy. I don't fully think that this whole drama is healthy. It needs to be discussed, but participating in it, or do so at your own peril, and examine your motivation for participating before you do, right? Gamey Such said you should be a teacher for a class of this topic. Well, I don't know if I have the authority or the experience to be a teacher. I just felt compelled to have a discussion about it because I enjoy sometimes talking about political things and especially about trending things on my channels. Yeah, but I know that it's a very powerful topic right now to discuss, like, what is sexual harassment? And if a woman is dressed sexy, when is what you say sexual harassment? I mean, when is, it's very obvious to identify when what you're doing physically is sexual harassment, but saying that's the gray area that I think that I should make a video about for sure. Do you guys agree? Have I made sense this whole fucking broadcast? Because I really feel like I have not. I feel like I'm like thinking it through, speaking as and simultaneously thinking it through at the same time. I mean, I've tried to think about this all evening because I wanted to try to return to the video I was making, but I'm not making the video. This is going to be the video I'm making on the topic until I make that other one. And I'm losing my voice. Anyone? I know there's 6 of you watching. I'm waiting. No? No comments? Unless the comments are delayed. You're silent. says Danny. So Raspergus says Monday's the worst day. Yeah, I mean, it is pretty heavy for a Monday. You're right. You've made sense, but yeah, the line of it is confusing. Well, it's because it's subjective, right? And it varies on person to person. Like, I think relative to other women, like, I don't mind. I mean, okay, I do mind sometimes, but like, especially when I make sexy videos online or post sexy pictures, like, it's par for the course that I'm going to get certain types of comments, right? I expect it and I'll laugh it off and I don't think of it as a threat. However, in person, that's different. And if the context in person has nothing to do with being sexy or sexy performance, then yeah, then the game changes. You know, like, I wouldn't want some guy walking up to me at the grocery store and be like, hey, you got some, you know, sexy legs there, lady. I'd be like, what the fuck? You know, like, go away. But if I'm in an Instagram photo showing off my legs, then that comment in the comment section isn't inappropriate. You know what I mean? So Raspergus says, you get harassed online as well with all the trolls and mean comments. Yeah, but that's, yeah. I suppose when, yeah, that's another, okay, yeah. Dick pics, I think, are a form of harassment online. Unsolicited dick pics. So whereas some guy saying in the comment section, I have sexy legs, if I'm showing my legs, that's acceptable. Him then sending me a picture of his dick, which is an actual sexual act, that is definitively sexual harassment. But the harassment from trolls wherein they like I got a comment from some guy, but he watches Sargon of Akkad, who is, I believe, an anti-feminist YouTuber. I have never watched Sargon of Akkad. I think I would just, like, my brain would explode. I have no desire to watch him. But yeah, because I looked at the guy's subscriptions, and he left me a comment today that was an ugly whore, which is just like, I'm not ugly. Nobody can fucking call me ugly because I'm really not. And a whore, well, I guess if that's subjective. If you think me doing not safe for YouTube makes me a whore, okay, whatever, I can't help you. Even Jesus can't help you. But yeah, I don't put that, though, in the same basket as what we're discussing. We're talking specifically sexual harassment and assault, sexual things right now, not the garden variety, Davison, you suck. Davison, you're a moron. Davison, you're a failure. Davison, you'll never get your goals. Davison, that's just, you know, just garbage. Like, that's just people trying to tear me down for doing something interesting in entertainment, or them not liking my media and taking it out on me. That's not sexual. So Stephen Simon says, why do people in power do these things without getting punished? The way they get off the hook, and it's always the creepy old guys. Why? Well, because nice people hold themselves back and frequently do not complain about harassers, which is what we're seeing now, right? I think that people are also afraid of the people that are more aggressive. So you actually, that's why they say nice guys finish last. These hyper-aggressive men get what they want and nobody challenges them because they're afraid, right? They're afraid of them. So I know in my industry, there's a guy who's a piece of shit who, like, some girl has actually made a blog about how he abused her when she worked for him, and he's still being given opportunities by the people in charge. And why? Because this guy is such a big fucking mouth and such a big fucking ego, and he's so fucking persistent that, you know, I mean, also people don't want to get involved, right? They're like, the sexual assault part has nothing to do with him, you know, his job competency. People can be incredibly competent and you know, generate revenue in entertainment and be complete shitheads, and all that matters is the end product, right? And nobody can fire them, especially if they, for instance, are the producer, because it's their project. Or if it hasn't gone to court and they, you know, they haven't been formally accused, people don't want to get involved. I think that's why a lot of shitty people get away with it. And yeah, I think that's the key thing, is what I just said. If you are your own boss, if you own your own company, and that's frequently what these guys are doing, like the Weinsteins of the world, you of course can get away with murder because there's nobody can stop you. Only the courts of law can stop you, right? Same thing with this shithead. Although this shithead shouldn't be extended opportunities by the industry I'm in, he pretty much is his own boss. And you know, every new person you meet won't know your history. So if you fucked, you know, 5 people over, that's okay. There's 1,000 people more, right? I mean, but eventually, as we saw with Weinstein, it eventually catches up to people, but it can take decades or never, right? So Piper Blush probably gets a ton of hate. Well, I don't want to talk about Piper Blush right now. I do know she gets a lot of dislikes, and I do know that she deletes negative comments because I met her and that's what she said. So, okay, guys, I am actually going to wrap this up because I wanted to upload this. I hope it was as complete as I can make it for now. Consider this the beginning. The end will be probably on my main channel. But I hope you guys are okay. I feel for you if you've ever been a victim of harassment or assault. And if you disagree with me, please let me know in the comment section down below. I don't think I'm perfect. I don't think I know everything. And I will see you all later. And I'm at Davison Video everywhere on social media. I'm on VidMe at Davison Video, Instagram, and on Twitter and Facebook. Okay, bye guys.